this is something that I stress a lot to my students, because we as music teachers need to stress, we're not just teaching them to play bassoon. We're not just teaching them music theory or music history. By playing bassoon, they have a lot of transferable skills that make them more than qualified for a range of work. And a lot of my students will say, well, I'm not qualified, but I'm like, let's break down the skills you need to do this job. I bet you already do them as a musician. And that's what a lot of people haven't understood, is how to communicate that. You know, I have these skills as a musician, and that's how you can get a job. You can make the difference between getting a job and not getting a job. As a musician, I do this every day. For instance, you're self-sufficient. How many hours are musicians just go, you give me a task, I will go and do it. That's practicing, right? How many jobs require that? Like every job, you know, nobody wants to be micromanaged or be a micromanager. You know, how about teamwork? In order to chamber music, play with a pianist, play with anybody, play in an orchestra, we have to make compromises. We have to listen to other people, and we have to go somewhere and meet in the middle all the time. We have teamwork skills that are tested like every single day. Like this is more than most students do, because we're practicing our craft every day. We're applying it. That's why it's called applied studies in bassoon. We're applying all these things all the time. And then finally, problem solving. Because again, what are you doing all day as a bassoonist? You're practicing. And that's what is wrong. I have to listen and figure it out. And then I have to figure out how to fix it. And then I have to keep going until I do. And if it doesn't work, I have to course correct, and figure it out. Like, again, these skills are incredibly valuable in so many jobs. And you can get a job just by being able to explain what you do as a musician. Even if it's not a bassoon job, you can get a job that could help you get that bassoon job just by showing I have these skills that I practice hours every day. And if you just are able to communicate those skills, that what you're able to do to someone, you're going to be top in line for any job you want. It's just like, it's really something to do. So that's what I mean. I could go on. I taught classes in these, so I could give you a whole semester's worth, but I don't want to do that for the length of time of this interview.
Yes. One of the big ones is we as musicians tend to demand more out of everything. It's a joke in Army bands, is that we will say with everything that the Army, the big umbrella Army makes us do, that we Army band it up, because you're taught from such a young age that you need to be perfect. And I remember reading a thing a long time ago where it was like, if somebody missed 10% of the notes, and if everyone missed 10% of the notes on a concert, the concert would be unlistenable. But if everyone in your math class got a 90% on their math test, everyone gets an A. So it's a good way to just put it in perspective about how forceful we are about, like, we as musicians, as a population, are going to do most things we try at an exceedingly high level, because we were built with this will to want to do things great. And learning to balance that with doing 95% or 97% as opposed to 99.8%, sometimes that extra 2% can be super stress relieving. You know, why? There's something I've kind of gone with is, I've done a few solo recitals at various places since I've gotten out of school. And when you're in school, you always want to play the piece with the most notes. You want a lot of black ink. And I'm like, but there are beautiful pieces of music that I went and I played a piece of music that was my first jury piece of my freshman year of college. And I played it on recital when I was 35. Because I was like, I don't have to do the Bernard hallucinations or the Hummel concertos amount of work to play a beautiful piece of music. You know, you don't think of that, like, you don't think about that as a thing so much when you're in school. And then I got out of school and I was just like, good music is good music. And sometimes, you know, I remember what I would put on my stand. I remember a DMA recital I did that I look back on and I regret playing that recital because it was so hard. It came across well. I feel like I played well on that recital, but how much other stuff could I have been working on at the same time if I had played one beautiful 8-minute lyrical piece instead of the Marnusio variations? You know, you could play a very beautiful lyric song. You know, like I said, I played the Rachmaninoff vocalises for a recital, which is something a lot of us start out with as children. You know, it's a high school level piece for a lot of people. But I now, in my 30s, I get different things from that piece. And I can also juggle that piece with what I have to learn for work. Or if I'm doing a freelance job, you know, you learn how to juggle that a little bit better. So I think it's learning to not always go for the 99th percentile. Sometimes know that you can take your foot off and go for the 97th. And you can still make a fantastic product and have a little bit more balance in life.
I think it is confident thing. To be confident, I feel when I'm confident playing music, I'm more confident in the life as well. And the sensitivity, like I like it that sometimes in the music you can be very sensitive, and I think while you are playing music you need to be very open and very vulnerable as well. And so I think this is a nice quality as well in the life. Be open and not to be fake. Actually, yeah, this is it. When you play music and you want to touch people, you cannot be fake because otherwise you don't touch it. And so I think this is a quality which I like as well to have in the life and as me as a person. Not to try to want to be somebody who I am not, but to show everybody who I am. Yeah.
I think there are a lot. The struggle, you know, of working through something on your own, it's very difficult for most people. You know, most people have to get used to that isolation and kind of disappointment. You know, and it sounds I'm a positive, optimistic person, so I don't. You know, those words, I don't like them very much, but they are. It is true. I mean, I think we have to go through this kind of trial and error thing, and that certainly helps. And whatever it might be, relationships, personal or in work relationships, or difficulties we have with a work environment or with just life events that occur, and. Well, among all of that, I should say, we have to find ways to be kind to ourselves. And in the practice room, in the evaluation of the session, and that's where I worry, you know, for my students when I see them just giving themselves such a hard time, because it's really difficult. As you know, it's very difficult to move forward and to improve when your biggest critic is like in your brain the whole time. So yes. I think, being kind to oneself and understanding that there are times where you have to set this thing aside, and you know, it should be enjoyable to do what we do. There are times it's difficult, there are times it's hard, there are times we're struggling to learn a concept or a technique, but there has to be joy in what we do, and if that starts to leave the equation too soon, you know, we have to help our students try to find that if that's what's happening, or ourselves. We have to kind of reevaluate and almost recalibrate so that we can get into a better space, because it's just so much time by ourselves. I mean, even, you know, I don't practice as much now as I did when I was in my 20s, you know, but but still, there's all this time by ourselves, and if you're just constantly too tough on yourself, then obviously it makes it really, really hard. So yes, be kind to yourself. Try to live by that as much as we can.
So I think first and foremost, time management. There are few fields that at the college level especially have as much going on at a time with as many disparate deadlines. You know, you'll have a concert tomorrow on the Stravinsky Octet, but then you've got Schubert Unfinished on Friday, and then you've got, it's just, and being able to look at the music and identify how much practice time each piece needs, how to allocate practice time to make sure you hit everything, and to be prepared for every rehearsal, to keep track of your schedules, because a musician's schedule is not 9 to 5. So first and foremost, time management. Along with that, self-discipline. There's a lot of that, right? You have to be able to sit in a practice room by yourself without a teacher breathing down your neck and play scales. You got to force yourself to do it. So, and then I would also add to that collaboration. The ability to work with others. And that can't be overstated, because I think in other fields that you can have a really bright person who does the job really well but doesn't take criticism very well, or doesn't work with others well. And we as musicians, we've been doing that since we were 5, right? We know how to deal with that. And so, yeah, I think music is a fantastic field to train people for any direction they want to go in their career.
Well, sure, again, kind of the basics, hard work, dedication, perseverance. Maybe another one, and I think musicians make extremely hireable, employable people in any profession because of those qualities. But the teamwork, that's a big one. Being able to communicate in a civil and in a professional manner, and taking deep breaths sometimes, because it's very personal sometimes. If you get a comment from a conductor, didn't like how you played a phrase or something, did not take that personally. Realize you were the person hired to meet their wishes and play the way they want to. And often we get a lot of freedom too, of course. The chamber music, that's kind of the height of personal interaction and being mutually respectful of each other. But I think if you take those kind of things we learn in music, whether, it's a 13-year-old, 14-year-old in a marching band field, learning discipline and teamwork and getting up early in the morning and going for the betterment of the group rather than the selfless versus selfish, those kind of life skills transfer to anything and make you happier, I think, as a person as you interact with people.
I think there's a lot of really great skills from music that carry over. My dad for work is actually a headhunter, and he says all the time he actually hires a lot of people with music degrees. Being able to be a musician, you're working on a project for long term, and as soon as we play it, as soon as it's out of the instrument, it's gone, right? You don't have something that you can hold up and be like, I made this, So you really learn to work on your own, to see the value of practicing, and perseverance through all of that. That's super important no matter what you do. If you're a freelancer, you have to learn business skills, you're marketing yourself, you have a lot of good accounting to keep your books, you have to be really organized to teach, you have to be able to speak clearly and be understood to teach. All those things are really important. I mean, when you're playing the orchestra, you're just getting along with everybody, you're melding with everybody, nobody's right, you're all just making it work. That's gonna work for you no matter what. Classical music has that amazing attention to detail, especially when you're talking about doing auditions, so you can do any kind of detail work. I think a lot of musicians are really good at scientific stuff or computer programming. I mean, there's so many directions that you could take it in.
music scene, the music world is a very small community. And so one needs to be mindful of building those connections, but also if somebody misbehaves, everybody knows about it. So in terms of advice, it would be just be aware that you are always on trial, no matter who you're playing with and where and when. In that, if you do something that is inappropriate, people will notice, and it will most likely get back to your colleagues or your teachers or somebody else. It's a very small world, and mostly that's a really, really good thing, I think. Actually, it's kind of interesting when say a student is looking to buy a used instrument, then if I don't know the person selling it, then I probably know their teacher, or there's going to be a connection, and it almost doesn't matter where they are in the world. Mm-hmm. The bassoon world is tiny. And I think if you ever get, a couple of musicians together, we did this a little bit in one of our previous talks, and you start talking about the people that you know and the places that you've been and the connections that you have. There was that thing for a while, it was 7 degrees of separation from Kevin Bacon or something. I think with a musician, it's maybe 2 or 3 before you start finding major connections. Mm-hmm. Your teacher and their teacher or something. There's going to be all of these interlinked things. Therefore, basically behave accordingly, I think. And if you assume that everybody's going to know what you do, then hopefully you're going to actually behave the way you should.
Definitely the first one, discipline. Who can sit in front of the bench for hours and hours and play? That's something, discipline. And what we learn, I think the next one will be willing to do everything. Because, sitting in front of music stands, reading the music, it's boring and hard and difficult. And nobody can help you besides yourself. You are the only person who can help yourself. Of course, your mentors, teachers, but in order to sit there, you have to concentrate and think everything that's only on you. So, disciplines, willing to do things, highly concentrate, of course. Multitask ability, that's something we'll do in our life as well too.
Okay, wow, that is a big question. But because I'm thinking something that this is from my life bring to music, not from music bring to life. Okay, so if you think about only from music study to bring to my life, I think my life is followed by music study and career, student and professional musician. This lead to my life, right? So I learned a lot of things. Like if I imagine I'm a city boy in Chengdu till my age now, I don't know, maybe it's a bit boring compared if I'm a musician. So because if you're not a musician, you're okay, there's other take photo is fun, swimming is fun, but there's a lot of people think about money, right? Money itself, maybe like number is fun, okay, they're making fun with numbers. But the music, the fun with music is infinity. So this is, okay, I get the point. The point is, fun music is infinity. So I have to always keep curiosity of this infinity. It's like the universe, right? You never know when it's the end of the universe. The same like music, it's the same. You never know. Even the same piece, each time you play is different. Your body is different, your understanding is different, the acoustics is different, the audience is different. So it is infinity. So it makes me more like character, more like curiosity of my music, of course, also related to my life. I never get bored with my child, with my student, with my pasta making. I never get bored. Maybe this is something I learned from music. You're right. And thank you for asking me this question. That inspired me, make it more clear when I talk to you.
Everyone you're meeting in school or in a gig past school could very potentially be a future colleague or even your boss. So keep that in mind as you're building relationships, hopefully really positively. Case in point, and I will refer to Rocco again, I did in my intro, one of my favorite musical endeavors right now is playing in this group in Houston, Rocco, River Oaks Chamber Orchestra. And the founder, principal oboist, executive director person is Alicia Lawyer, who I met in graduate school at Juilliard. And we lost touch for many years, but when she was starting this orchestra, she found me, called me up. Here I am, having enjoyed that experience for the past 15 years. So yes, build those relationships, those collaborations now, because they will pay off, frankly, and they're really rewarding.
The idea that you're just part of a bigger whole, and that if you cooperate and sense that you have a part to play, but you're not the whole thing, that just cooperation, socialization, understanding how people work together, learning to manage time, getting together to create something beautiful, to contribute to what it means to be human. All those things come through in music, you know. And then also the other thing that it escapes me, but from time to time I become aware of it, is that people that are not in the field that we're in may have the same skill, but by and large, most people are not like focused on excellence, right? Most people go to work, they know there's the job they have to do, and when they get that job done, then they move on to something else. And it could be that they are perfectionists and they want it to be the best, you know, spreadsheet ever made in the world or whatever. That's very unusual and not required. It is required in our profession, and so it's hard for us to remember that there are people that are really not like us in that sense. And so the idea of and maybe this is another reason why when you're asked to justify why a student goes into a music school with the idea that there are no jobs out there for them when they get out, the skill of learning how to do something excellently and learning how to ferret out all the little details that go into doing something well, that is an important life skill that does translate. And you know, to have that ability, that's not something that comes naturally to everybody. It's not taught necessarily all the time. But in our business, it is an absolute essential quality. So, you know, and to be detail oriented too. I mean, that's another aspect that we don't see in a lot of other professions. I mean, there are other professions where that's emphasized, but not so much.
To not make assumptions, and that's where I've hit various walls. You know, you feel a little bit reticent about spelling things out for people. But if you're actually going to do high-level performance and presentation, things have to be spelled out. And roles and duties have to be either quickly understood or rejected quickly enough that people can be replaced and we can move on.
Passion. Emotion. What music brings out in us when we play it and when we listen to it. For me, that's how you have to play your life too. I mean, when we listen to Nimrod, Elgar, if you can't get emotional during that, I almost feel sorry for you that you don't have that ability to feel that emotion. I still, to this day, if Nimrod comes on the radio, I'm in my car, and I get in the driveway, I have the driveway moment. I will not pull in the garage until Nimrod is done. It's just one of those pieces that just grabs me. Right now, I have a big kick going. This is not classical, but in a way it is. An Edith Piaf piece called Non Je regrette rien. It's one of her most famous pieces. And it's used in a Geico commercial right now, of all things. But when I hear it, for some reason, what he wrote just elicits a certain emotion in me that either brings back childhood memories, I don't know what. So my point of saying all this is what the music does to us emotionally, we should let our lives be that way and be sensitive to all the people around us. Be open. You know, if you go to play a contemporary piece you don't like, go in there with an open mind and give it the best shot. And you know what? You might walk away from that concert saying that's one of my favorite pieces.
Wow.
And that's life. When you meet people, don't judge them until you get to know them. You know, these are all musical things in a way.
Yeah.
And then always give it your best shot. And be open.
We learn a lot of things that are important. I mean, we learn patience, I think, definitely self-discipline, especially if you're going on to, I mean, in the undergrad, I mean, you're sort of pushed along the whole way, right? Everything's very structured and everything. But in further degrees, and then once you're out in the real world, like, are you able to, you know, keep that self-discipline? I'd say, you know, we learn in playing music, we learn how to prioritize the things that are important to us and really how to organize those priorities so that you can get the things done that you need to get done. I think also we learn a lot of perseverance. I think most musicians and most successful people across almost every field would say you're going to get more no's than you're going to get yeses. So I think we learn how to persevere even when we get all those, you know, rejections. And then something, I feel like I'm a little bit broken record on this, but something that I've personally learned from my music travels is understanding privilege, and that not everyone has the same opportunities or resources. And from that, I learned gratitude.
I mean, I think some of the big ones are like solving your own problems and self-discipline, making yourself work hard every single day. I mean, if whatever you want to do, if you just treat it like music and you practice 3-4 hours a day, you're probably going to get there. I mean, that's just so valuable. If it's writing, if it's making an Instagram page, of, you know, like whatever business or job you want to have, like just do it every day and you'll get good at it, you know? So I think that's so valuable.
Practicing side, the thing is, when you get to job, people think, right, I've done it now, the end. The thing is, the next thing you have to do is to keep it. So it's a case of consistently keeping one's playing going. I mean, I make reeds, so that's another way of keeping things going. Yes, I think it's a case of always looking up ahead. I'm always planning ahead. We wind players are always going to management and saying, what's happening here? What's the program? So that we can always prepare reads, you know, this kind of thing. So it's a case of being prepared. And even, I mean, I was very fortunate to be invited to play with the Malmö Symphony in Sweden back in 2018 and had a wonderful time. It was great, you know. And I went to do Mother Goose, which I do about every 18 months. Wow. Or every 18 months, every 2 years that comes up. And I think that's the main advice, is to be ready. be ready, not only in playing but also in focus as well.
We got to work really hard. I mean, there are more and more bassoonists now than there ever have been, and less jobs. And so you have to really know what you want to do, and really just practice, work hard, set yourself apart, and yeah, it's a great career and profession, but it's really hard to get into it. So know what you want to do, and grab the bull by the horns and go.
I think discipline is probably the number one thing that would apply to anything else you do in life. Having the setting goals, I guess, would be another one, which you have to be disciplined about in both setting them and then fulfilling them. And staying organized within those goals, making sure the work you're doing is going towards those goals.
I mean, what just comes to mind is just being open-minded and communicative. I think it's the most important thing. I think the music industry is in many ways really, really beautiful, and in many ways terrible. We've got it all, but one of the things that I see as a very beautiful thing is that we share this music, and we can kind of, usually we say communicate with this kind of language and stuff, and I think this is important, that we just all that we don't see the person for whatever they are, but we try to communicate with them, and we stay open-minded to whatever they bring, because that's very, very important. My old teacher at the conservatory always said that no matter what you can do, someone can do it better, but that might be the only thing they can do. But then you have to learn what they can do. So it's always about see it from different sides and different perspectives. So and this is also something that I try to bring into my teaching. Something I always say is to my students: listen to each other's lessons, learn from each other. You can all teach each other things and get taught by others, and really stay open-minded this way, and don't be afraid of people who can do stuff you can't, because it's a good thing, and that's something I wish I would have. It's easy to say, but something I wish I would have done more early on.
Well, I think that's very much like what we said about how to be successful in the music industry. It's just, get organized, be on time, be a nice person. How many people do you know who are extremely talented, but they just can't show up on time? There's a bunch of those. Or, do your homework. Pay yourself first. Practice first thing in the morning. No, I used to do that. I wish I were better about it now, but it's, you can always go out and play later, I think. Practice now.
Really, any one of them could apply to a number of different things. I mean, to stick to something that's not a profession of mine, but we talked about with bowling. So I feel like there's a lot of similarity between playing in an audition and playing a game of bowling, to the extent that you're in league, you're in competition, and this game counts for something. It's very much you have to, in an audition more than other places, with both auditions and with being up there on a bowling lane, doing this by yourself, bowling, we sometimes do leagues in teams, but it's not a team sport in that sense, in the way that like baseball or basketball are, where there's real cooperation,
Right.
And there's a certain sense in which you really have to quiet your mind. You have to think about what you're doing, what you're about to do. You have to think of it in the simplest terms. If you're taking an audition, you can't You can't be giving yourself like 20 different standing orders, or play this way. No, you got to go in there. You got to have it down, and you got to give yourself like one order. Start this note not too loud. It could be as simple as that, And with bowling, and I'm sure anyone else viewing this who does any kind of sport or athletic competition will be able to understand this very easily. That with bowling, it's the same thing. You can't, I can't be saying, okay, I have to line up for here and shoot for this arrow, and I've got to keep my arm like this, and when I throw, I got to keep this, and I've got to keep my head like this, my shoulder. All that in my brain is just going to shut down. Like I got to go up there and go, just push the ball forward so it doesn't. The rest will follow, and it has to. And if it doesn't, then of course you've got to practice and improve. But you can't be giving yourself too many commands in that sense. You've got to give yourself one, maybe two simple things to remember. So auditions in general, and certainly playing in an orchestra, playing in any performance situation, that also applies. But auditions is where it really, becomes obvious that every little thing you do, like committee here, but also you here too.
Probably the most important is perseverance. If you don't get it today, you might get it tomorrow, or you might get it next month, or you might get it in 3 years' time. It's you've got to stick with it, and believe in yourself. I think that's probably the most important, but also the hardest. So many musicians are so full of self-doubt. In fact, so many artists of any sort just struggle with self-doubt all the time, and it's never good enough. Pablo Casals, the cellist. In his 90s, someone asked him why he was still practicing. He said, because I'm not good enough yet, Come on, man. I think perseverance and just believing that you can do it, or you will be able to do it at some stage. And it applies to everything. You're trying to make something, or you're trying to, get better at something, or just get better at being organised. Just stick at it. Have goals. You might never reach them, but at least have them.
Yes.
And stick with it. And get there. Every now and then I'll say to myself, right, that's it. I've come as far as I can possibly go. I can't do any better than that. And then a couple of days will go past, and you think, actually, maybe I can.
Yes.
And you set yourself some new goals. And so, just believe that there's more. There's always more, and persevere and find out what there is. It's a huge journey. It's a huge journey. It's something that Craig taught me. It's not about the end result. It's the journey. It's the journey that's the exciting part. And what you learn about yourself on the way. I think you learn a lot about yourself. Because how do you express yourself if you don't know enough about yourself?
Right.
That's profound, but yeah.
Sure. But, one thing I find with music that is so applicable is, it forces us to be organized. And I speak, of course, as a double reed player, bassoonist. We have the added challenge of reed making. On top of maintaining our scales, and our fundamentals. And, we got this to prepare for, and okay, well, I've got this for my jury piece, or I'm doing this recital, or I'm doing this performance, and that's one thing that I found with music has really helped is this force me to be diligent. If I don't have that structure, then, it gets to 2 days out, and I'm like, oh no, I don't have a read for this, or I don't, I need to learn this piece really, really quickly. So that is something that, I'm very fortunate with music that it has taught me, okay, you really got to plan things out really far in advance.
I think one of the biggest is teamwork, actually. I think when I've coached the youth orchestra, like the chamber ensembles, I think one of the things that I always want to stress with them is that I think as musicians, we tend to be very competitive people, you know, like, well, I have to be better than this person, I have to be better than that person. But I think the reality about music is that everything is much better when you're a team, when you're in this together, when I play softer here because you're more important at this part. And I think that makes you a better person. And I think that actually gives you better skills in life. You think about, I remember when I was younger thinking like, in order to get an orchestra job, you need to be the best person at that audition. And that's true. I mean, like, that is true most of the time, because I think, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but I think about like the times that auditions have been won because, well, not because, there are times when people get put into the last round of an audition because, oh, so-and-so went to school with them, or, you know, they get asked to have a trial week because, you know, this person had a good experience with them somewhere else. And I think we tend to brush that under the rug, or in the orchestral world, but I think that's true in everything. You know, like you talk about people in the corporate world and they're like, oh, well, my friend so-and-so does that, you know, they're like, we should hire that person. And I think I didn't realize how much that was a thing when I was younger. Like, I thought it was all like, well, I have to be the best. And now I'm like, no, like you just want people to be around you because like you could win the audition and not get tenure because you're a jerk. So you want to make sure that people enjoy working with you because that's going to be far more important than anything else.
I mean, it rewards hard work.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, our audition process is not perfect. It's far from perfect, and it's far from free of its biases and all of this, and I'm well aware of that. But it does a better job than in just about any other field of being impartial and unbiased. It gets as close as you can, and it's been doing that for a long time. I don't say it gets as close as you can, but it gets as close as any other field, and so it's really important to put in the work and to show up. Apart from that, I mean, it's that I'd say that's the main thing. It rewards work. It's full of very talented people who and very good people who can hear right away what you're doing, and who can tell right away what's going on with your character as well.
I feel like the most important thing for me that I learned was to be non-judgmental. It's not like I was judgmental, but I feel like sometimes I could be harsh to myself, you know? Like, it's so easy to go from, like, for example, remaking. I actually like remaking, but still it's frustrating sometimes. And, you know, when you get to the bad reward, like if you make a mistake on scraping, this really just like from a potential one that just went through to the trash can, then you feel like, oh, how could I do that? You know, then you just like without just unconsciously just attack yourself. But that won't solve any problems. So I learned to not be judgmental and just focusing on what it is. You know, I made a mistake and what the mistake was. So next time I won't do the same mistake again. So that's a helpful way. That's really helpful information to me. But if I attack myself and only focusing on how come it went wrong, then I will not get any information that happened. And it's not just like about remaking or playing, just like anything in life. Like I found it's like if something went wrong or like didn't go as I intended to, you know, I just like won't, you know, just, or like stop myself from just attacking.
One is that it's often that we, music teachers, we say that things are happening, because someone picks up an instrument and they really aren't. And we as teachers aren't really teaching people how to do that thing. And now some might get that thing and some might not. So people talk about this concept of hard work. Some might get that, some might feel like they're in an oppressive environment, right? And so I oftentimes hesitate to discuss some of the ancillary benefits of playing music unless it's really clear that a teacher was really intentionally trying to do that. Because sometimes we take credit for things that happen on our watch, even if we didn't actually make that thing happen. But in response to your question, which is a solid one, I think that there are many teachers who teach their students how to think critically. I think that there are many teachers who do that. Not the teachers who teach rote and you got to do it this way and that, my way or the highway, and you scrape here and and that's it. Like, not that. That's not teaching critical thinking at all. But there are a lot of teachers, I think, who teach critical thinking skills, which is, okay, there's a challenge here that we got to work together to solve for. Here are some suggestions on my end as a teacher. Try these, and then try something that you come up with on your own. Let me know what you come up with, because I'll use it with another student probably, right? So like there are these teachers who are creating this this bi-directional relationship, and students are really learning to think critically via their music making. I think that is a thing that, depending on the teacher, I think some students are really learning. I do think that there are, I think that as difficult as it is sometimes, we also learn that, as I mentioned earlier, you can do everything right. You can, give it your best effort. You can really care about the thing, and it can be really meaningful to you, so meaningful that you will hurt your body sometimes, and the thing still won't work. And that doesn't mean that you are a bad person or flawed. This means that the thing didn't work. And so if we do this well, we can also learn that our value as a human being is not wrapped up in what we do or what comes out of the end of our bell. That is a thing that music has the opportunity to teach us. Whether or not it does in every circumstance, I don't know, but it does have an opportunity to teach us that. And then also, I think it gives us an opportunity to commune with just other cultures, other places, other time periods in world history. And it has an opportunity to teach us so much about various kinds of people and various kinds of experiences above and beyond those that are rooted in Western Europe. And there's an opportunity for our music and music learning to be able to do that. It doesn't always, but it could. It really, really could.
I'm in Chicago right now. We're at my summer job in the Grant Park Music Festival, and that was my first job out of school. And again, I didn't know what I was getting myself into. And one of the first lessons I feel like I had to learn very fast was that I was not going to play perfect every concert, because we have 30 concerts over a 10-week period and 2 different programs a week, so 20 separate classics programs basically. And I just remember in the first week on the job realizing like, oh, I might play in a hole, like a giant rest or something, or I might miss this, or and we're outside, so there's also that factor. But that was and it's a lesson I'm still learning, because I feel like we spend so much time in school like being like, I'm going to be perfect, I'm going to nail this, but in reality, and that's fine. a perfect concert isn't the best concert. Also.
Right.
So that was a very big lesson. And then just being a good person, because you want to be surrounded by good colleagues. So be who you want to be surrounded by.
I would say to respect, like as a bassoon player, if you want to be, this is for people that want to be orchestral musicians. If you want to be a soloist or a chamber musician or an educator, that's a different thing. But if you want to be an orchestral musician where there's more than one bassoon in a section, I think having a deep respect and understanding of there is nothing inferior or lesser about being in a section. And throughout my career, especially with university students, I have noticed that they seem to think that second bassoon is it's embarrassing if you have to play that, or it's tokenistic, or next year we'll get principal. I've even had people ask me in the past, as an adult, are you just striving to be the principal bassoon? And I'm like, no, that is not my gig. I can do that, but I choose that. I prefer this. I think it's really good, and I was really grateful to Brock, and also I learned off Hamish McKeach as well, who was a bassoon player, to really be driven by the big picture of why you want to be in an orchestra, and if it's about how do you say this without being confrontational? But if it's about competitiveness and showing off, maybe it might not be the right place for you, because in the long term, it's actually not what it's about, and you'll probably, especially competitiveness, if you win a job because you wanted to win a job and beat people, you're going to be miserable, because that's not what it is. It's an expression of this amazing world that we have this privilege to be the sort of the caretakers for, and so yeah, my advice would be to respect everyone around you, even if there's people that you don't necessarily like the style of their playing, or you might dismiss them as a career second player. Trust me, there are things to learn from those people, and from principal players too, of course. I've learned so much from understanding how my colleagues play, and I personally, because I was given the experience to sort of learn on the job, to sort of work while still growing as a player, I realized that my ears are really attuned to emulation, and maybe that's why I love playing second so much, because I really just like fitting in. I like making that person, I like sounding and matching with the person that I'm with, and regardless of whether it is to my taste or not is beside the point. I want, and it is my values to try my best to create a sound that supports them, and I've learnt that from sitting next to some amazing first bassoonists.
First of all, go easy on yourself, be kind to yourself. Hustle, but keep your eye on the big picture, So, yeah. And then focus on how you'd like to make an impact in the world, and let that particular thing drive your direction forward and how you move forward in your career and in your life and in your playing and in your connection to music. And then I was going to say, it's funny because, if you have an idea, go for it. If you're willing to put in the time and the effort to bring it to fruition, good, go for it.
There are many, but I just want to say just one or two. The perseverance, to keep going, to not give up, I think, I think that's a very important skill. It's not just to be optimist, but I think it's another skill that is really nice. But to be optimist at the same time, don't give up. It's easy to say. It is easy to say. I remember many times when I was in a really bad day, in a really bad mood. Listen, people say, don't give up. And I say, yeah, you say so easy. And I'm saying, don't give up. But I know I know because yes, if you give up, it's not you. It doesn't mean that you couldn't. You can do it. Sometimes, as I said before, sometimes it's not the way that you want. I know we want to go faster. We want to do everything like this every time. We don't want to spend too much time practicing. We don't want to spend too much time. We don't want to spend one whole year in just one repertoire, 2, 3, 4. You want to play everything. I know. I want to every time say, okay, I want to play all the bassoon repertoire, and then I realize, okay. Go back. Be honest with yourself, and just do it. I mean, don't give up. The perseverance, the constance. Yes, for me, those skills are really important. And I can say so many others, like be punctual, be responsibly, be honest, be serious. To be a professional. Be a professional is not to be the best bassoon ever in the world. Be a professional is that you are really committed with your job, with your work, and you're respectful everybody else at your place, at your workplace. It can be the orchestra, a Sistema Center, a school, whatever. So those skills music have taught me, and I think those are really important.
So flexibility, but also structure. That makes sense. Finding that balance. And then I would also just say, thinking about what is it, like what's your definition of success and quality of life. And don't accept things that are gonna put you in a toxic environment, or put you in a situation where you're where it starts taking a toll on your quality of life or your mental health.
Organization, time management, organization, really important. Discipline. That's really it in a nutshell. I mean, just knowing what your responsibilities are and making the right arrangements to be able to meet those responsibilities and to keep working at it.
There's still always just the reality of our field that a lot of good people don't end up actually getting the job. But what I did that first year was just because I thought, well, they're basically stuck with me for this year. They're going to have another audition. I'll do my best. The feedback seemed pretty good, but I also just would literally if I ever started feeling kind of stressed out about it, just you can spend this concert being worried, or you can enjoy this concert. You can. Yes. Why don't you just I think that was sort of my little entry level mindfulness. I had taken some meditation courses when I was in New Zealand, and I think that I started to get a sense of just how you do have choices of where to focus your attention. Yes. And I would just think pretend this is the last time you ever get to play this piece.
I feel like I'm learning about myself now by looking back at those years, at the person I was back then and who I am now. The end of my time at University of Texas was actually harder than the rest of the time. I think a lot of people, and my wife, who's a violinist, had a similar kind of a downward trajectory at the end of school. I think a lot of people assume, well, at the end of school, you're prepared, you're done learning, and it's time to just go win something real quick.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll sound your best then, and everything is in this perfectly linear fashion. And that wasn't the case with me, actually. And I think it's for a good reason.
Mm-hmm.
When I started at University of Texas, I had a relatively high opinion of my playing and very little actual knowledge of what good playing was. I wasn't exposed to much good playing. I hadn't done a lot of listening to good recordings. I hadn't been surrounded by a lot of really excellent bassoon players. I was basically the only one at my high school.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was pretty great. Well, you don't know anybody else. And so my freshman year, I was pretty confident. And then kind of through those 4 years there, I was only learning what I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, you kind of have to learn what you don't know and then fill those gaps.
Yeah, I honestly think there are so many. And maybe this comes because I am a player that's really had a lot of evolution and metamorphosis through my artistic career. With orchestra always being the foundation and kind of the bread and butter. I've really noticed as I, right now I'm doing a part-time job with this local gallery and arts organization as the music programs coordinator. And, I think being a musician and being self-employed, you become so self-sufficient. You become really good at problem solving on your own. And I would say that the majority of the population, the general population, don't have confidence in that way to solve their own problems and really be self-starters. So, that's kind of a broad idea, but I think it actually is pretty profound that if you, do find yourself needing to work another job for a little while, or you want to transition, or, whatever it is in your life, that, being independent and having the skill set to find the answers to your own problems is actually huge selling point. and translates pretty well into a lot of other work that you can kind of train on the go.
Well, I think the biggest thing is, Julie, be on time, show up, be on time, be responsible, do your job. If you do that, you're going to be a success at just about anything.
The very first one that I can talk about is the fact that you become more aware of people around you. That we are all humans and we are all in this community. You learn how to be more empathetic. You learn how to be more, you are part of this community in which you can change stuff for the good. You are part of something bigger than yourself. And music teaches you how to be a teamwork. Being just that skill, that prepares you to work anywhere, because you need to really have that when you go to work, even if it's not in music field, in any field. You need to be able to relate to people and be a leader for the change of things that you need to change. You need to participate with the rest of the world, to be part of the world. So music has that capacity. It teaches you that, especially when you work, when you have the experience of working in an orchestra. We make music together. We put all the sounds together. Everybody is part of the game. And you learn that just by doing that. So when you are in the everyday world, that's how you are going to act. And that's why it's so important for kids to have that experience, to not only experience music, but play music, to have an instrument, to have the experience of making sounds at the same time as other human beings. It's just amazing what that can do. So, yeah, that is one of the things that you learn, skills that you learn with music that you can apply to your everyday life.
Yes, don't speak unless spoken to. Mostly by the conductor. Just sit there. The conductor doesn't talk to you. Don't. Hey, maestro. No. Just sit there. And if he doesn't talk to you, then you are a success. Okay? You just sit there. And silence is golden. And in life also, as well as work. Another. I think this one, and I think of it musically. We all heard the thing, treat others the way you would like to be treated. Well, you can do that musically, you know? Don't step all over the flute player solo. You know what I mean? If you have a solo, you don't want somebody over there, you know. You to make good music, you have to come in under there. You have to help them. You have to help them be their best. Do that in life. Help people be their best. Do the same in the music, you know, and people will want you around musically and in person. So, you know, but yeah, support. I would use that. You know, treat them the way you would like to be treated musically. You know, I would use that in life.
The importance of being curious, right?
Mm-hmm.
The importance of being confident and knowledgeable about exactly who you are and what you're bringing to the table and what your purpose is, but also understanding that needs to act in a complementary way to the people that you are collaborating with and interacting with, and it needs to be a delicate balance. And you need to know, just as musically, you need to know when to lift up your voice and make sure that you are heard. It's equally important to not do that at inappropriate times when it's important to listen to other people and to think about the importance of the function of other people and what they're doing and saying. It's important to lead, it's important to be able to be led, and to really analyze our relationships, I think is an important thing that music has taught me that's applicable to everyday life.
First of all, be nice to everyone. Like, don't gossip. Even when you hear other people gossip, like, it's so easy just to kind of get onto that train, and it's really just not nice. And you know, I'm very careful about what I say. If I don't like something, I just don't say anything. Or if you know, just be careful about who you. It's a small scene, and just always be prepared for you know, when you start out as a student, or graduating, your first gigs are going to be when probably come up at quite short notice, because someone will be away or sick or whatever. And that's definitely how I got in. I was called into the Sydney Symphony when I was in my second year. Someone was away. They went through a lot of people. I mean, I happened to be called, and I'd actually just luck of the draw. I'd played the piece they were doing. I'd played already, so that one gig ended up turning into a month, of other work. That's just how it is. So always be a good sight reader. Like, being able to sight read is so important, and that is one skill I'd say isn't. I mean, everyone is getting so good, and the new, like, every next generation is so well put together. The instruments are getting better, they're just reed stuff. It's all so, the equipment is so good, but the one area I'd say that isn't necessarily evolved is the sight reading.
I think the biggest advice is always just keep everything wide open. Always keep every opportunity there. You never know where you're going to end up in life. Like, I never thought I would transfer twice in my undergrad, and I did, and now I am really grateful for that because of all the different people I've met and studied with. So I think the biggest advice would just be flexible, be open to change, definitely be an entrepreneur, which is something that is being more and more taught in even higher education today. And don't be afraid to make sacrifices and take on challenges that scare you.
Creativity and resourcefulness. Yep. That's it. It's just be creative. How are you resourceful? Like, I was baking the other day and I didn't have buttermilk. Well, I had lemons and regular milk. Add an acid to an alkali and get, resourceful, creative, what have you. So that's about it. That works in so many places, in so many ways. It's definitely paid off in my corporate career, like massively. So I'm a huge, resourcefulness and creativity. Creativity too, it keeps you interesting. Some people are like, I've heard this before, I'm not interested in it. They've been in their job for 20 years and they're, burnt out. So how can you reframe something? How can you alter their experience and then reinvigorate them? And I'm lucky I get to see that in different people in different ways, including myself, which you get big thanks for. This experience has reinvigorated a lot of my bassoon soul in a good way.
Focus, perseverance, passion, picking yourself up when you fall down and knowing that you can go to the next step. I'm so grateful that I'm a musician. The skills that I have learned as a musician, I do use them in every other area of my life, and I try to help other people. I try to empower other people to learn those things too. Resilience, confidence, all those things. I'm just grateful to be a musician.
Well, I think the biggest thing is getting along with people, getting along with your colleagues, and not to make up for any insecurities or deficiencies in your playing. I mean, you have to, if you're in a playing ensemble, you have to be prepared. And being prepared means coming to that all the rehearsals and certainly the concert, 30 to 45 minutes before, and being prepared to play and knowing your part. So I think that's crucial, and it's also crucial when you're teaching. I've done nothing but college teaching, really. I was a band director for a year at Ripon College here in Wisconsin before getting the Oklahoma job. And I was also still teaching at Lawrence University, where I replaced my teacher when he retired. And I did that for 3 years. And before that, I was the percussion teacher at a university in Louisiana, at Northwestern State University. One of the ways that you can get along with people is to get their respect by knowing what you're supposed to do and doing it to the best of your ability. You're going to make mistakes. You have to accept that. It's, no matter how good you are, every once in a while you're going to make the wrong decision, and you have to take responsibility for it. But as long as you prepare yourself as a professional, people will respect you.
One of them is to love thyself. Always recognize your accomplishments. Just because you didn't get a job in the first try or something, I mean, you put an effort and you got from point A to point B, you are advancing. People should not be so self-deprecating, you know, and they should love themselves. There are times for self-criticism, and there are times where you should leave yourself alone and silence your gnomes, you know, your little gnomes that are like, oh, you're gonna miss or something, you know, you silence that part, and you're like, okay, I did this and I should be proud, and recognize everything, you be proud, but I mean, also be realistic, you know, like if you didn't do well in an audition, what you need. For me, for instance, it was Marriage of Figaro, and so then I cannot tell you how much time. In fact, I'm writing a little book about an exercise for this excerpt, for 5 excerpts, and of how to study this to nail it every time. And I did that work, and it worked. So you have like, and I applied that to my life. Like, okay, you don't have all the ingredients to cook something, you know, just what do you have? What can you do different? Like, so, and just be disciplined. Okay, I'm gonna do this, and organization. We have to organize, and openness also. I feel like musicians are very open-minded.
It's not as much about music as school makes it out to be. This is an entrepreneurial industry. This is a business of marketing, sales, entrepreneurship. A lot of times you have to be almost all the time, you have to be a sole proprietor. Yes, it is absolutely about honing your craft and sharing art with people and uplifting people's souls and all those fluffy things that people share on Instagram. But it's also about making your product appear attractive in more ways than just saying, well, I'm a great player, or, well, I'm a great teacher.
As musicians, we all kind of live that life, right? It's like its own lifestyle. And so I would say, like, it's hard for us to know because we're fish in the fishbowl. Maybe discipline, maybe grit. I actually do think musicians have a lot of grit. I think we have a really great ability to multitask. I think we have quite a good understanding of needing to stick up for ourselves and sort of diversify our talents. I think that creativity is huge in all aspects of life, and it comes more naturally to a musician. Problem solving and actually like being a good coworker. I mean, we learn a lot sitting next to different people all the time, trying to work in chamber music groups with people from different backgrounds and of different instruments. I mean, I could go on and on. I would love to maybe like meet up with someone who's like an expert in you know, like the business world, like in workplaces, to learn more about you know, like how awesome we are in workplaces. I bet that we actually like have learned a lot of these really great skills just because of our training and our everyday practice.
Yeah, but actually, it's. I think it is a life school. I mean, there is a little problem that sometimes, I mean, some of us, we are so much like practiced alone so many times when we were young, that sometimes people say musicians are quite strange people, you know, because I mean we have to spend so much time with ourselves and the instrument, which sometimes makes us difficult to manage like the real life outside with people and to be like just normal. Yeah, and but in the music actually, yeah, I mean you need everything. You need a sensitivity. Sometimes you need also to be not too sensitive, because being too sensitive in your orchestra also something very dangerous. Yeah, you can interpret every movement of somebody like it's because of you. As also, I mean, sometimes you need also to be like to have the distance to people. You need to be organized, of course. You need to be healthy. You need to be strong. You need to be. I mean, it's something very very difficult, which challenge in many ways. But yeah, I mean, as long you try to grow, as more you can, how to say, you have a nice method to have your own therapy. I think somehow this is, I mean, it's something fundamentally. It has a deeper sense, which not many things on earth has, actually. If you think about the deeper sense of why we are here, there are not much things. Not much. But the most people, they are just behind, I mean, just behind like being famous, being rich, being beautiful, all these stupid gods we have in this world now, right? But if you go deeper, there's not much. But music is one of them, actually. Yeah, maybe not every music. No, there are some really destructive music out there, but you know what I mean.
Yes.